Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the massive chamber, her small human form dwarfed by the towering alien delegates that surrounded her. The Galactic Council's meeting hall was built to intimidate, with walls that stretched up into darkness and seats arranged in perfect circles around the speaking floor. 12 different species sat in judgment today, and Elena could feel the weight of their ancient eyes upon her. She had known this day might come. For 50 years, humanity had been the newest member of the galactic community. 50 years since humans had first developed faster-than-light travel and stumbled into a universe already ruled by others. 50 years of trying to prove they belonged among the stars. The ethereal collective's representative spoke first. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, filling Elena's mind like whispered silk. Elena Vasquez of Earth, you stand before this council to answer for your species' actions. Humanity has been found unworthy of continued membership in our galactic community. Elena's hands clenched at her sides, but she kept her voice steady. Honorable delegates, I request the right to speak in humanity's defense. A sound like breaking crystals filled the air. The Zephyrian delegate's crystalline form shifted colors from blue to angry red. Defense? Your species attacked the pirates at Kepler without seeking council approval. You acted with violence when diplomacy was required. The pirates were killing innocent traders, Elena replied. Our ships were in the area. We stopped them in 3 days. How long would the council have debated while people died? 17 months, 4 days, and 6 hours, came the mechanical voice of the Axiom Collective. That is the standard time for emergency trade route discussions. Your species acted with dangerous haste. Elena felt her heart sink. This was exactly the problem. These ancient civilizations had grown comfortable with endless discussion and slow, careful decisions. They saw human speed and decisiveness as reckless aggression. The massive form of a hegemony delegate leaned forward. Its forearms gestured as it spoke in its booming voice. Humans fight first and think later. In the Outer Rim conflicts, you destroyed 3 pirate bases without negotiating surrender terms. You show no mercy, no wisdom. We showed mercy to their victims, Elena said. The people they had enslaved, the colonies they were raiding. When someone is hurting innocents, sometimes action matters more than perfect procedure. The ethereal's voice filled her mind again. This is precisely why humanity cannot remain. Your neural patterns are chaotic. You resist harmony. You cannot be guided toward proper thinking. Elena had felt those mental touches before. The ethereals expected other species to simply accept their telepathic suggestions, to let their ancient wisdom guide younger races. Humans had proven frustratingly immune to such influence. Human minds worked in ways that confused and worried the ethereals. Perhaps chaos isn't always wrong, Elena said. Perhaps some problems need new solutions instead of ancient ones. The council chamber erupted in alien sounds of displeasure. Clicking, humming, and crystalline chimes expressed their shock at her words. The floating form of a gossamer delegate pulsed with angry lights. You see? The ethereal's mental voice was cold now. Humanity questions the wisdom of civilizations that ruled the galaxy before your star was born. You are dangerous children playing with forces beyond your understanding. Elena looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some curious, some angry, most simply distant and cold. These beings had created amazing things. They had ended wars, built wonders, and brought peace to countless worlds. But they had also grown old and careful, and afraid of anything that didn't fit their perfect order. What if we changed? She asked desperately. What if we learned to think more like you? To be more patient, more careful? The Zephyrian's crystals turned a deeper red. Impossible. Your species' aggressive nature is genetic. You evolved as predators on a harsh world. You cannot simply choose to be different. We have done great things too, Elena said. Human doctors saved the population of Kepler 442 when the plague struck. Human engineers built the stations that protect the neutral zone. Human soldiers died defending ethereal colonies from the Void Raiders. Yes, admitted the Axiom Collective. Humanity has shown unexpected creativity and sacrifice. But these same traits make you unpredictable, dangerous. The eldest member of the council finally spoke. The ancient was so old that no one remembered its species name. It had been there when the council was formed thousands of years ago. Its voice was like wind through empty spaces. The decision is made. Humanity will return to the quarantine zone around your home star. You have 30 standard days to withdraw all human presence from council space. Any human vessel found beyond the 50 light-year boundary after this time will be destroyed. Elena felt the words hit her like physical blows. 12 billion humans lived on dozens of worlds across the galaxy. They had built lives, made friends, started families among the stars. Now they would be forced back into the tiny bubble around Earth, cut off from everything they had come to love. "Please," she said, "give us another chance. We can learn. We can change." "The decision is final," the ancient said. "Humanity has shown its true nature. You are too young, too violent, too unpredictable to exist safely among civilized species. Perhaps in a few thousand years, when you have evolved beyond your aggressive instincts, we will consider contact again." The chamber began to empty as the delegates filed out. Elena stood alone on the speaking floor, watching the representatives of 12 ancient civilizations turn their backs on humanity. The ethereal delegate paused as it passed. "It is not hatred," it said gently in her mind. "It is fear. Your species adapts too quickly, changes too fast. You make us uncomfortable because you remind us that we have grown old and set in our ways. But some changes are too dangerous to allow." Then she was alone in the vast chamber, with only the weight of failure crushing down on her shoulders. In 30 days, humanity would be exiled from the galaxy they had just begun to call home. She thought of her daughter Maria, serving on a human colony near the edge of council space. She thought of the billions of humans who would have to abandon their dreams and return to the prison of Sol System. But as Elena walked toward the exit, she made herself a promise. Humanity would not break under this judgment. They would not give up on the stars. Somehow, someday, they would find a way to return. And when they did, perhaps the galaxy would finally understand that being different wasn't the same as being wrong. The great doors of the council chamber sealed behind her with a sound like the closing of a tomb. The evacuation ship stretched across space like a river of lights. Maria Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the transport vessel New Horizon, watching as the last human families left the mining colonies of the Vega system. Her mother's words from the council trial echoed in her mind, but the reality was harsher than any diplomatic failure. "Mama, why can't we stay?" A small girl pressed her face against the viewing window next to Maria. Her parents stood behind her, their faces showing the same confusion and loss that marked every human leaving the outer colonies. "Because sometimes the grown-ups who run things don't understand us," Maria said gently. "But we'll find a new home. Humans are good at that." The girl's mother nodded gratefully at Maria. Everyone knew who she was now, the daughter of the ambassador who had failed to save them. But instead of blame, Maria found only determination in human eyes. They had been rejected, that they refused to be defeated. 3 months later, Maria stood in the emergency session of the Earth Defense Council. The great chamber beneath New Geneva buzzed with angry voices as colony representatives argued about their future. Some wanted to plead for readmission to the Galactic Council. Others spoke of hidden colonies, of refusing the quarantine. "We should accept their judgment," said Governor Chun from the Mars colonies. "We're too aggressive, too quick to fight. Maybe we need to change." "Change into what?" Maria slammed her hand on the speaking podium. Into creatures so careful and slow that we debate while people die. Into telepathic sheep who let the ethereals think for them. The chamber fell silent. Maria had been elected Director of Human Defense just 2 weeks ago. Chosen because she understood what her mother had learned too late. Humanity's differences weren't flaws to be fixed. The Council fears us because we're unpredictable, she continued. Because we adapt fast and act faster. Because we don't fit their ancient patterns. Well, maybe it's time we stop trying to fit. Over the following years, Maria's words became humanity's new path. Cut off from galactic technology and trade routes, humans were forced to innovate in ways they never had before. The research stations of Europa developed new forms of artificial intelligence that didn't depend on the quantum consciousness networks the Council used. On Mars, engineers created matter converters that worked on principles the galaxy had never seen. The colony ships that had been forced back to Earth's system were retrofitted as research vessels and exploration platforms. Humanity began mapping every asteroid, every gas giant, every speck of matter in their quarantine zone with obsessive detail. If they were going to be prisoners, they would know every inch of their prison. Dr. Sarah Kim made the breakthrough on Titan in 2401. Her team had been trying to develop faster-than-light communication that didn't use the galactic quantum networks. What they found instead was something unprecedented, a way to link human minds directly to advanced AI systems without losing human creativity or independence. It's like the AI becomes part of how we think, Sarah explained to Maria during a secured transmission. Not controlling us like the ethereals try to do, but working with us. We stay chaotic and unpredictable, but we can coordinate across vast distances. This discovery changed everything. Human crews began working with an efficiency that seemed impossible. Ship pilots could coordinate maneuvers that should have required hours of planning in mere seconds. Scientists could share insights and build on each other's work at the speed of thought while maintaining their individual perspectives. The generation born during these years grew up different from their parents. They had never seen the great council stations or walked on alien worlds. They knew the galaxy only as the place that had rejected them, and they grew up harder because of it. They called themselves the Forged, shaped by isolation into something new. Marcus Chen was one of them. Born on a transport ship during the evacuation, he never knew a home except the military vessels where his family served. By 2450, he commanded the first human stealth ships, vessels built with technologies that owed nothing to galactic science. "We've been thinking too small," Marcus told Maria during a planning session. She was older now, her hair gray, but her eyes still sharp. "We keep acting like we're trapped in this quarantine zone. What if we weren't? The Council will destroy any human ship they detect beyond the boundary," Maria reminded him. Marcus smiled. "Only if they detect us." The first ghost ships launched in 2470, built with human stealth technology and crewed by the Forged generation. They slipped past Council sensors like shadows. Their mission was simple: watch, learn, and map every Council system within 100 light-years of human space. What they found troubled them. The galaxy was not the peaceful paradise the Council claimed. Pirates raided trade routes while Council fleets debated response strategies for months. Slavers operated openly in systems the Council had designated as protected. The ancient civilizations had grown so cautious that they could no longer protect the innocent people they claimed to govern. "We could help," Marcus reported during one of his rare returns to Sol System. "Our ships could stop these pirates in days, instead of the months it takes the Council to approve action." "And reveal ourselves?" Maria asked. "Start a war we can't win?" Who says we can't win? Marcus pulled up star charts showing the positions of his ghost fleet. We've been watching them for 15 years. We know their weaknesses, their patrol patterns, their response times. If we chose to fight, they'd never see us coming. But Maria had learned patience from the long years of exile. Not yet. Let them continue to underestimate us. Let them believe we're still the same humans they banished a century ago. The reports continued to flow in from the ghost ships. Council worlds grew increasingly unstable as their rigid bureaucracy failed to address real problems. Younger species within the council grew restless under the endless layers of procedure and protocol. The galaxy was changing, but the ancient civilizations couldn't see it docked by 2485. Maria knew the time was approaching. Her mother Elena had died the previous year, but not before seeing the first images from the ghost ships, proof that humanity had not given up on the stars. On her deathbed, Elena had whispered words that Maria now carried like a torch. "We didn't fail," Elena had said. "We were just early. Show them what we've become." As Maria stood in the new command center built inside the asteroid series, watching displays that showed human ships positioned throughout council space, she finally understood her mother's meaning. The council hadn't banished humanity. They had given them time to evolve into something better. The century of exile was ending, and humanity was ready to return to the galaxy. But they would not come back as the same species that had been rejected. They would return as something new, something stronger, something the ancient civilizations had never imagined possible. The long dark was over. It was time to turn on the lights. Admiral Marcus Chen watched the pirate fleet through the stealth sensors of his ship Shadow Walker. 15 vessels, armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust, were closing in on the Zephyrian research station, Crystal Song. The station's distress signals had been broadcasting for 6 hours. But the nearest council patrol was still 2 days away. Standard council response time, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Park, reported. The Zephyrians will file an emergency request, which goes to committee, then to the Sector Defense Board, then to 27 hours minimum before anyone gets authorization to help. Marcus finished. How many people on that station? 43 scientists, 12 security officers, and 34 civilian staff, Park replied. All Zephyrian crystals. They're pacifists, Admiral. They don't even have real weapons. Marcus studied the tactical display. His ghost fleet had been watching situations like this for years, gathering intelligence and staying hidden. But 3 months ago, Director Maria Vasquez had given new orders. Phase 2 was beginning. All ships, this is Admiral Chun, begin silent approach. Rules of engagement are active. We protect the innocent. The human ships move like predators through space. Built with technology that combined traditional human engineering with innovations born from a century of isolation, they slipped past the pirates' sensors without triggering a single alarm. The pirates never saw them coming. The attack lasted exactly 17 minutes. Human plasma beams, fired from ships that appeared from nowhere, tore through pirate hulls with surgical precision. Marcus had studied these particular raiders for months. He knew which ships held their command structure, which carried stolen goods, and which were filled with slaves taken from previous raids. When Zephyrian security forces finally arrived 2 days later, they found the research station intact and the pirate fleet destroyed. The slave pens had been opened, their captives rescued and delivered to nearby safe worlds. In the debris field, they discovered a single message beacon broadcasting in perfect Zephyrian harmonic language. Humanity remembers its friends. The Zephyrian commander who found the message was old enough to remember when humans had been part of the galactic community. She stared at the beacon for a long time before filing her report with Council Security. 3 weeks later, a similar incident occurred in the Vortex Nebula. Slavers operating a processing station for kidnapped colonists found their facility surrounded by unknown ships. The attackers disabled the station's defenses, freed over 200 captives, and left the slavers floating in escape pods with their weapons and engines destroyed. Again, the only sign of who had intervened was a simple message: humanity protects the innocent. Reports began flowing into council headquarters from across their territory. Pirates who had operated for decades were vanishing overnight. Slave traders found their operations disrupted by mysterious attackers who struck without warning and left no trace. Trade routes that had been dangerous for years suddenly became safe. The ethereal collective's high mind-shaper convened an emergency session with the other council leaders. "Something is protecting our citizens," she announced, her mental voice carrying undertones of confusion. "But we cannot detect who." "Probably just improved security patrols," suggested the hegemony representative, his forearms gesturing dismissively. "Our forces are becoming more efficient." "Our forces are still taking months to respond to threats," the ancient corrected. Its voice carried the weight of millennia. "These interventions happen in hours, sometimes minutes." The Zephyrian delegate shifted her crystalline form to deep blue, indicating serious concern. "My people report that the attackers move in patterns we don't recognize. Ship formations that seem random but achieve perfect coordination. It's almost like what?" prompted the ethereal. "Like the old human military doctrines. Before the banishment." Silence filled the council chamber. The Axiom Collective's mechanical representative processed this information for several long moments. Hypothesis: human forces operating in violation of quarantine restrictions. Probability: 12.7%. "Impossible," declared the Gossamer delegate, its form flickering with agitated light patterns. "We monitor the quarantine zone constantly. No human ship has crossed the boundary." But even as they spoke, Marcus Chun's ghost fleet was operating deep within council space. Human stealth technology, developed in complete isolation from galactic science, had created ships that were effectively invisible to council sensors. They had been watching and learning for 15 years. On the bridge of his flagship, Marcus reviewed reports from his captains scattered across the galaxy. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had just finished clearing out a nest of organ smugglers near the ethereal border worlds. Commander James Walsh was tracking a group of pirates who specialized in raiding Gossamer Ark colonies. Lieutenant Commander Anna Petrov had discovered something disturbing: a slave breeding operation that the local council authorities were ignoring because proper jurisdiction couldn't be determined. Admiral Sarah Park called from her station. Priority transmission from Director Vasquez. Maria's image appeared on the main screen, transmitted through the quantum communication network that only human ships could access. She looked older now, but her eyes still held the fire that had driven humanity through the long dark. "Marcus, Phase 3 is authorized. It's time to let them know we're here." Marcus smiled. "Understood, Director. How do you want to make the announcement?" "The Council has called an emergency session to discuss the unknown protectors operating in their space. Our intelligence sources say they're planning to increase border patrols and implement new security measures. I think it's time they learned who they're really dealing with." The transmission ended, and Marcus turned to his crew. These men and women had been born in exile, trained in secret, and shaped by the knowledge that their species had been judged unworthy of the stars. But they had proven themselves worthy through their actions. "All ships prepare for full revelation protocols," Marcus announced. "After 15 years in the shadows, it's time to show the galaxy what humanity has become." 3 days later, during the Council's emergency session about the mysterious protectors, something unprecedented happened. The chamber's security alarms screamed as undetected ships suddenly appeared in orbit around the Council homeworld. Not attacking, Just there, waiting. The message that followed was broadcast on all council frequencies simultaneously, somehow bypassing their most secure communication networks. It showed an elderly human woman standing in what looked like a military command center. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," Maria Vasquez said, her voice calm but carrying absolute authority. "This is Director Maria Vasquez of the Human Colonial Defense Force. I believe you've been wondering who has been protecting your citizens from pirates and slavers. Wonder no more." The transmission showed fleet positions throughout Council space, dozens of human ships that had been operating undetected for years, all revealing themselves simultaneously. "We tried peaceful coexistence once," Maria continued. "You rejected us. But we never stopped caring about the innocent people of this galaxy. We've spent a century learning to be better protectors than you ever were. Now we wish to discuss a new arrangement." The transmission cut off, leaving the council staring at tactical displays showing human ships positioned near every major council world and station. Ships that could have attacked at any time, but had chosen instead to serve as silent guardians. The Ancient was the first to speak, its voice carrying something that might have been respect. "It appears humanity has returned to the galaxy. The question now is, what do they want?" The answer to that question would reshape the galaxy forever. The ancient trading station called Crossroads hung in the void between star systems, neutral territory that belonged to no one and served everyone. Ambassador Elena Vasquez had first visited this place 50 years ago as a young diplomat. Now, at nearly 150 years old, she returned as humanity's voice for what might be the most important negotiation in galactic history. Thought her great-grandson David Chun stood beside her as they walked through the station's corridors. Where Elena was small and weathered by time, David was tall and strong, representing the new generation of humans born during the exile. His eyes held the confidence of someone who had never known defeat, only the stories of previous struggles. "Remember," Elena said quietly as they approached the meeting chamber, "we're not here to apologize for what we've become. We're here to offer them a choice." The council representatives were already waiting when they arrived. Elena recognized some faces from decades past: the ethereal High Mindshaper, the Ancient, the Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps. But there were new faces too, younger leaders who had risen during humanity's absence. The chamber was smaller than the great council halls, designed for discussion rather than judgment. Still, Elena could feel the tension in the air as 12 alien species faced 2 humans across a simple metal table. The ethereal spoke first, her mental voice carrying undertones of suspicion and curiosity. "Elena Vasquez, we had heard you were dead. Human medical technology has advanced considerably," Elena replied calmly. "Among other things." "Indeed," said the Zephyrian delegate, her crystalline form shifting to amber tones of concern. "Your ships appeared in our space as if from nowhere. Our sensors detected nothing until you chose to reveal yourselves." David smiled, and Elena noticed how that simple expression made several council members shift uncomfortably. The Forged generation had learned not to hide their confidence. "We've been there for 15 years, David said. "Watching, learning, protecting your citizens when your own forces were too slow to respond." The hegemony representative's forearms gestured aggressively. "You violated our sovereign space. You ignored the quarantine that was imposed for good reason." "Did we?" Elena asked. "The quarantine was designed to protect you from our supposed aggression. But we never attacked a single council world. We saved them." The Axiom Collective's mechanical voice clicked as it processed data. "Confirmed. Human interventions resulted in 847 rescued civilians, 23 protected colonies, and 156 neutralized pirate vessels. 0 casualties among council citizens." "You see," Elena continued. A century of exile taught us something important. Our aggressive nature, which you feared so much, makes us very good at protecting people. While you debate and form committees, innocents die. We prefer to act first and discuss it afterward. The ancient leaned forward, its form casting strange shadows in the chamber lights. What do you want, Elena Vasquez? Why reveal yourselves now? Elena stood, her aged hand steady as she activated a small device on the table. The air above it shimmered, and suddenly the chamber was filled with holographic displays showing human settlements throughout the galaxy. We want to end the quarantine, she said simply. Not to rejoin your council, but to exist alongside it. We've built new homes in the dark spaces between your territories. We've grown beyond your ability to contain us. The display showed human cities built inside asteroids, vast ship formations moving through unexplored regions, and research stations and systems the Council had never bothered to investigate. In a century of exile, humanity had not just survived, they had thrived. Impossible, the Gossamer delegate flickered. We monitor all space lanes. We would have detected such expansion. David's smile grew wider. You monitor the space lanes you know about. We found others. The ethereal high mind shaper suddenly stiffened, her mental presence reaching out to touch David's mind. Elena watched with interest as the alien telepath attempted to probe her great-grandson's thoughts, looking for deception or hidden motives. What happened next shocked everyone in the chamber. David didn't just resist the mental intrusion. He reflected it back, somehow turning the ethereal's own telepathic probe against her. The high mind shaper stumbled backward, her crystalline staff clattering to the floor. How? She gasped. Human minds don't work that way? You cannot manipulate telepathic energy. Human minds didn't work that way, David corrected. A century of evolution in isolation tends to change things. We've learned to adapt in ways you never imagined. Elena stepped forward as the council representative stared at her great-grandson in amazement and fear. This is what we've become. Not the chaotic, violent children you banished, but something new. We've kept our unpredictability, our willingness to act quickly in crisis situations. But we've also learned discipline, strategy, and cooperation on a scale you've never seen. To demonstrate, David activated his own holographic display. It showed the positions of human ships throughout Council space, not just a few dozen that had revealed themselves, but hundreds of vessels that had been operating in secret for years. Every major world, every important trade route, every strategic system, David said quietly. If we had wanted to conquer you, we could have done it at any time over the past decade. The chamber erupted in alien sounds of shock and alarm. The hegemony representative was on its feet, all four arms gesturing wildly. This is an act of war. Invasion. You have violated every treaty and law. Have we? Elena asked calmly. We prevented wars. We stopped crimes. We protected your people when you failed to do so. If this is invasion, it's the strangest one in galactic history. The ancient spoke into the growing chaos, its voice carrying the weight of millennia. What you propose would change everything. The galactic order has existed for thousands of years. Yes, it would change things, Elena agreed. The question is whether you want that change to happen with us as partners or without you entirely. David touched another control on the holographic display. Option 1. We withdraw all ships from Council space and you never see us again. We found ways to survive and thrive without you. We'll continue to do so. The display shifted to show human colonies spreading into previously unknown regions of space, self-sufficient and growing rapidly. Option 2. We work together. You keep your counsel and your careful deliberations. We keep our rapid response capabilities and our willingness to act. When your processes are too slow for emergencies, we handle them. When our methods are too aggressive for delicate situations, you handle them. Elena watched the faces around the table as they considered the implications. The young ethereal delegate, someone Elena didn't recognize, spoke up hesitantly. And if we refuse both options? David's expression grew serious for the first time. Then you learn what it's really like to face a species that has spent a century preparing for anything you might do to stop us. The lights in the chamber dimmed slightly as David's words sank in. These weren't the desperate humans who had been banished a century ago. These were beings who had been forged by isolation into something far more dangerous than the Council had ever imagined. But Elena stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. It doesn't have to come to that. We're offering you partnership, not conquest. We've proven we can work together for the greater good. The question is, are you brave enough to try something new? The ancient was quiet for a long moment. When it finally spoke, its voice carried a note Elena had never heard before: uncertainty. We must deliberate on this proposal. The council will need time to discuss. 24 hours, David interrupted. After that, we begin implementing our independence whether you agree or not. Elena placed a hand on her great-grandson's arm. What my colleague means is that we hope for a quick decision. The galaxy is changing, with or without the council. We prefer to shape that change together. As the council representatives filed out to begin their discussions, Elena remained behind with David. Through the chamber's windows, she could see the lights of ships from a dozen species, all waiting to learn what the future would hold. Do you think they'll agree? David asked. Elena smiled, thinking of her mother's words from so long ago. They're scared of us, just like they always were. But now they're also impressed. Fear and respect can be the foundation of a good partnership. Outside, the stars waited to see which path the galaxy would choose. Fleet Admiral David Chun stood on the bridge of the Terran Unity, watching the most diverse fleet in galactic history prepare for departure. Ships from 12 different species floated in formation around the massive human vessel, each contributing their unique capabilities to humanity's greatest gift to their new partners: expertise in surviving the unknown. It had been 9 years since the Crossroads Accords dissolved the old Galactic Council and created the Stellar Compact. 9 years of learning to work together despite fundamental differences in how species thought, communicated, and approached problems. The expedition beyond the galaxy's rim would be the ultimate test of what they had built together. Final systems check complete, reported Commander Lisa Park, her voice carrying both excitement and nervous energy. All vessels report ready for extragalactic jump. David nodded, studying the tactical display that showed the fleet's composition. The ethereal ship Mindbridge would handle long-range telepathic communication with home. The Zephyrian vessel Crystal Harmony carried the most advanced sensor arrays ever built. The hegemony battleship Four Arms of Victory provided heavy firepower and defensive capabilities. Each species contributed what they did best, and binding them all together was humanity's gift: the ability to coordinate rapidly changing situations through their unique blend of AI assistance and unpredictable thinking. Admiral called Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communication station. Incoming transmission from Director Vasquez on Earth. Maria's image appeared on the main screen. She was very old now, but her mind remained sharp as ever. Behind her, David could see the memorial wall that honored the pioneers who had made this moment possible. His great-great-grandmother Elena's name was carved in place of honor. David, you're about to leave the galaxy humanity fought so hard to be part of, Maria said. I wanted you to know how proud we are of what you've accomplished. We couldn't have done it alone, David replied. It took all of us to get here. That was true in ways that would have seemed impossible during the old council's reign. The Stellar Compact hadn't just replaced the Council's rigid hierarchy. It had created something entirely new. A system where species could maintain their independence, while cooperating when their different strengths were needed. The transformation hadn't been easy. In the early years, there had been conflicts and misunderstandings. The Ethereals had struggled to accept that their telepathic guidance wasn't welcome among species that prized mental independence. The Zephyrians had been confused by humanity's willingness to take risks, without months of careful calculation. But gradually, they had learned to see these differences as advantages rather than problems. The breakthrough had come during the Void Raider crisis of 2496. A massive alien fleet had appeared at the edge of the galaxy, attacking everything in its path with technology that seemed to shift and adapt faster than any known science could explain. The old council would have spent months debating how to respond while worlds burned. Instead, the Compact had acted with unprecedented speed and coordination. Human rapid response fleets had engaged the invaders within hours of first contact, buying time for the Ethereals to establish communication protocols and the Zephyrians to analyze the alien technology. When human firepower alone wasn't enough, hegemony battle groups had joined the fight. When conventional tactics failed, the innovative wanderer nomads had provided unconventional solutions. The war had lasted only 6 months, compared to the decades-long conflicts the galaxy had known in the past. More importantly, it had been won by cooperation rather than the dominance of any single species. "Jump coordinates confirmed," announced the Gossamer Navigator, its light form flickering with anticipation. "All ships ready to depart on your command, Admiral." David looked around at the mixed crew on his bridge. Human officers worked alongside ethereal telepaths, Zephyrian crystal singers, and representatives from 8 other species. They had learned to communicate not just through language, but through shared purpose and mutual respect. "Before we go," David said, "I want to read something." He pulled up a document on his personal display, words written by his ancestor Elena Vasquez during the dark days after humanity's banishment. She had never lived to see the Compact formed, but her vision had guided them toward this moment. Perhaps chaos isn't always wrong. Perhaps some problems need new solutions instead of ancient ones. David's voice carried across the bridge. Those words were spoken by a human ambassador who refused to accept that being different meant being wrong. Today, we carry that spirit beyond the galaxy itself. The transmission from Earth crackled slightly as Maria spoke again. The long-range sensors are detecting something unusual at the galaxy's edge. Something big approaching from outside our local group. We need to know what it is. Understood, Director. We'll find answers and bring them home. All ships, this is Admiral Chun, David announced on the fleet-wide channel. Today we leave the galaxy that our ancestors fought to be part of. We leave as representatives not just of humanity, but of the idea that different species can work together to face any challenge. Jump in 30 seconds. The countdown began, and David found himself thinking about the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had been banished for being too aggressive, too unpredictable, too different. They had returned stronger, not by becoming like their critics, but by proving that their differences were exactly what the galaxy needed. The Ethereals had learned that chaos could be creative. The Zephyrians had discovered that sometimes speed mattered more than perfect precision. The ancient civilizations had been reminded that being old didn't automatically mean being wise. Jump initiated, the Navigator announced. Space twisted around the fleet as they leaped beyond galaxy's edge and into the darkness between star cities. For the first time in cosmic history, representatives from multiple galactic civilizations were working together as true equals to explore the ultimate unknown. Hours later, as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a region where no stars shone. David stood before the main viewing screen and watched the sensors begin their sweeps. Whatever was approaching their galaxy from this direction, they would find it and understand it. "Admiral," called the ethereal communication officer, her mental voice tinged with awe. "We're detecting artificial structures. Massive ones. And they're not empty." David smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of discovery that had driven humanity to the stars in the first place. "All ships full alert. Begin comprehensive scans. Let's see what's out here waiting for us." As the mixed fleet began its investigation of the mysterious structures, David reflected on how far they had all come. The galaxy that had once rejected humanity for being different now depended on that difference to face new challenges. On the bridge around him, beings from a dozen worlds worked together with an efficiency that the old council could never have achieved. They combined ethereal wisdom with human adaptability, Zephyrian precision with hegemony strength, creating something greater than any single species could accomplish alone. The future was uncertain, full of unknown dangers and impossible challenges. But they would face it together, as partners rather than subjects, as equals rather than rulers, and ruled in the end. The galaxy hadn't needed humanity to become more civilized. It had needed civilization to become more human. And as they prepared to make first contact with whatever ancient intelligences waited in the dark between galaxies, David knew that their greatest strength would always be the same thing the old council had feared most. They were unpredictable. They were diverse. They were different, and they would never stop exploring the unknown together.